Chapter 13. The Legend of the Hanging Tree. Braithwaite Village, 1632 AD. Molly McKinley was just 19 years of age when she met Charles Theodore III. It was love at first sight, and the feeling was mutual. Of course his family had not approved. Why would they? She was but a mere chambermaid at Braithwaite Hall, and was in the employment of Lady Theodore to boot. Charles would beg and plead with his mother to allow their love to be, but to no avail. Her opinion would never be changed.
"She is not of our breeding," Lady Theodore would say. "It can never be. I shan't allow it." "But, mother, our hearts are entwined, and it shall be this way forever. Please, mother, please relent." They'd had this conversation many times, but Lady Theodore would never relent. She raised her lean forefinger at her eldest offspring, Charles. Her face was now contorted to the extreme. "I simply forbid it, and if I find out that you have not adhered to my wishes, there will be severe consequences for that young lady of dubious virtue. Let that be an end to the matter. You are now dismissed, Charles Theodore III. But, mother, be reasonable. No matter what the question, love will always be the answer." But she'd turned her back on Charles. As far as Lady Theodore was concerned, the matter was now closed forever. Charles was furious. Molly was his heart, his soul, and his very being. He would rather die than never see her again. And with a storm coming in from the moors, he headed straight for the stables and saddled up his black Frisian horse, Graham. He leapt onto his back and galloped into the deep grey evening. His horse was panting as furiously as Charles. Graham could sense his anxiety. Molly McKinley was sat in the servants' cottage, weaving a shawl by candlelight. But she couldn't concentrate. All she could think of was her lover Charles, and how one day they would elope and be together forever. She stopped when she heard the hooves approaching on the cobbled road that ran adjacent to the cottage. Her heart skipped and fluttered as she knew it was Charles's horse. She leapt up and ran to the door to greet him. Charles dismounted Graham and tied him to the wrought iron gate, and strode his way up the outside stone steps that led to the first floor of the cottage. He tapped on Molly's big round knocker, and out she came. She flung herself into his arms. "Charles, Charles, I knew that you would come. I knew that that tyrant of a mother would never stop you loving me." "Never, Molly, never. For as long as there is breath in my body, our love will live. And if anything should happen to our mortal souls, our love will continue to live. For our immortal souls shall meet here on moonless nights forever as ghosts. I swear this to you on all that I hold sacred." They held each other with such passion that no further words were needed. Charles lifted her with ease and carried her over the threshold. His ardour knew no bounds. He pulled off her bonnet and undid her ribbon to reveal her long, cascading, golden hair. She reciprocated by removing his elegant top hat, then grabbed the boned buttons of his velvet outer coat. Charles then set about her loosely draped,
high-waisted off-white dress, and now she was stood in her knee-length camisole. Her large bustle was clearly visible. They continued to undress each other. 10 minutes later, Molly was down to her corset and knickerbockers. Charles then tackled the criss-crossing leather cords on the tight, breath-stealing corset. Another 15 minutes and it would be job done. Suddenly, the storm was directly overhead, and a flash of lightning scorched across the courtyard of the cottage, and the door burst open. "Fornicators!" screamed the voice of the local witchfinder general. "Thou art in league with the devil, and we know the deeds that thou'st have done." Charles was aghast.
"This is not fornication. This is love. A love that has been created by two hearts that forever will be entwined."
"This is not love," continued the witchfinder. "'Tis the work of the devil. 'Tis the devil's accomplice. 'Tis Molly McKinley the witch. And you know what we must do. We must burn the witch, for she has cast her evil spell on you."
No, no, this cannot be. This cannot be happening. Not my Molly. No, no.
But Charles's protests were in vain, and the outcome was inevitable. Molly was dragged from the cottage by a rabble of torch-bearing villagers. Charles tried to stop them, but it was hopeless. He knew that he would never see Molly alive again. She would now be dunked in the river on the ducking stool many times over, and if she was to survive such an ordeal, then that would be proof that she was indeed a witch. She would then be burnt at the stake to rid the world of the evil that she cast. If she was dunked in the river and drowned, then it would be beyond doubt that Molly was never a witch, and it was all just a silly mistake. So either outcome would mean her end. Charles could not live without Molly. She was his very reason for existing. He had but one course of action left. He grabbed a rope from the barn that lay under the cottage and headed for the oak tree that stood in front of the dwelling. He thrust the rope around the thickest branch, and there he did the deed and breathed his last. And as the howling gale whipped itself into a frenzy, his legs swung lifelessly back and forth, never to walk the earth again. The thunder and lightning of the storm grew more distant until all was calm. Charles and Molly were reunited once more, and this time it was forever. Their earthly presence would never be seen again, at least not in living form. Braithwaite Village, 1976 AD. 344 years later, at the ruins of the old servant's cottage, 4 boys skulked around in the dimming light of a still, warm summer's evening. And there, Harry, Jensen, Simon, and Dippy were about to bring Charles Theodore III back from the dead.